Storytime from Anonymous. It was my birthday and my mom took me to rent a house by the beach with my friends. We were going to stay there for about a week. Everything was going fine until one day. It was about 12 a.m. and my friends and I decided to go swim. So we changed and went swimming. And we accidentally locked ourselves out of the house. No, my mom was a very heavy sleeper. We swam for about an hour and then we realized that we were locked out. So of course we were freaking out. We were banging on the door and there was no answer. Then out of nowhere, this creepy guy comes up to us. He asked if we need help. I didn't think anything of it, so I said we were fine. Like for part 2. Storytime part 2. So we told the man that we didn't need any help. And then he reached and tried to grab for both of us. So of course we ran and hid in the water because it's dark. And we couldn't see anything, so we were in the water for about 15 minutes. And then we decided to get out. After we got out, everything was fine until we started to hear something behind us. Of course, we turned around and freaked out, but there was nothing there. We were looking around for about 20 minutes for a spare key. And we found one under a mat in the back. We got inside and decided not to tell my mom. And we woke up to a knock on the door. The same guy who tried to kidnap us. My mom answered it, and he didn't see us. As soon as my mom saw him, she shut the door and locked it. Apparently, he was a wanted serial killer in Georgia. Thank you so much for this DM submission. DM me more stories if you would like. And also, thank you so much for 30K. I love and appreciate all of y'all. Whatever the top comment is, I'll bake. Bye, thank you.
I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do about it. This story is wild, so hold on. My husband and I have been married for 2 years. We're best friends, so we've had a really good relationship. We got married after 6 months of meeting each other. During that whole time, I met a lot of his friends, including his best friend. But he told me he had another best friend who was going to be traveling for a full year. One day, my husband tells me that all his friends are getting together to greet their best friend, the one who had been traveling for a full year. We show up to the party, and it turns out that this best friend is a woman. Not just any woman, but one that looks like she could model for Vogue. This woman was so good looking, I instantly got insecure. When her and my husband saw each other, they ran to each other's arms. Then I spent the entire night trying to be included in the conversation. Every time I would ask a question, she would answer it to my husband. She would never even look me in the face. Finally, I asked her if she had a problem and she said, "No, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited to see my best friend." When we got in the car, I told my husband I didn't like her. Then he said that he knew exactly what I was going to say. And he also said not to worry because I wouldn't never have to hang out with her. And that he would hang out with her without me, just to save me the trouble. Part 2. I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do. That's when he told me that he would hang out with his girl best friend without me, so that he could save me the trouble of having to see her face. Then I asked him if he thought that she was more attractive than me, and that if he preferred to be with her than with me. He started to laugh and said no, and he felt offended that I would even ask him. So basically, he didn't even answer my question. Sometimes he would tell me that he would go hang out with her at bars. I would stay home and just literally cry the entire time. I would get sick to my stomach picturing my husband hanging out with this Vogue model. That's when I reached out to my husband's best friend and asked him what the deal with her was. And this man spilled all the tea. He told me that they had all been best friends since college, and that the Vogue model was basically in love with my husband the entire time they were in college. But my husband never paid attention to her. But then he told me that they ended up hooking up one night, and that after that my husband was hooked. But then she didn't want to be with him. Instead, they decided to stay best friends. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do. After finding out that my husband had hooked up with his girl best friend who was really attractive, I vomited. Even though this was before I had met him, something told me that she was probably still in love with him. That's when my husband's guy best friend who had just told me everything invited me over to his house. And then the idea just came to me. I'm gonna start hooking up with whoever I want if my husband's gonna be doing it with his best friend. So I went over to this guy's house, we had a few drinks, and I hooked up with him. Did I regret it? Absolutely not. I felt liberated. It's like I'd gotten revenge on my husband. So after that, I went on a rampage. I tried to hook up with as many of his friends as possible. Exactly 6 guys. Then I looked for the guys that I liked in college, and I hooked up with a bunch of them too. In total, 14. This all happened in a month. But now my husband told me that his best friend, the girl that I thought he was hooking up with, is pregnant from another guy and that they're getting married. And that the whole time she was away traveling for a year, she was with this man. Now I feel like a total asshole. What should I do?
Am I wrong for embarrassing my father-in-law after I repeatedly asked him to explain his joke to me? I, 27 female, used to be an escort, a hooker, from when I was 18 until I was 23. I am not proud of it, but I also don't give an F because I did what I had to do to keep studying and a roof over my head. That's how I met my now fiance, 37 male, though he was never my client. We began to date when I was 25, and 3 or 4 months in after that, his brother-in-law exposed me. No idea how he found out, because there's no way my fiance knew, and thus we had to come clean in front of his whole family. Yes, I did that. Yes, he knows. Yes, he doesn't care. It was 2 years ago at that time. We got over it. After that, there was a span of 3 to 4 months in where my mother-in-law and some of my fiance's aunts and cousins policed their husbands when I was around. It was really weird, to be honest, because these dudes were like 40 to 60 years old and I wasn't that desperate. So my fiance shut their bullshit hard, and even when his family still gives me the side eye from time to time, we thought it was behind us. He proposed last year, and 5 months ago we found out that I was pregnant. We were really happy about it, and we told his family as soon as we knew. His sisters and younger brother were happy for us, but his mom took me aside and begged me to be honest with her and asked if it was really my fiance's child. I was taken aback, but I just rolled my eyes and said yes. She gave me some shitty speech about how she only wanted to make sure. Like, you would tell her, like, what, even if it wasn't his, you think you're gonna tell his mom, like, yeah, he doesn't know, but it's not his baby. Dummies. Well, last weekend we were at his parents with his family, and some of his friends were talking about the name, how he might look, just small talk. And my father-in-law said that he and his children have a birthmark in the inner thigh, and that even his grandchildren, one of my sister-in-law's kids too, got them. So our baby might too. And then he said, but how can we know from who he got it? It may as well be from me, my boy, or my brothers. And he and his brothers began to laugh. My fiance got mad, and before he could say anything, I said, I don't get it. And my father-in-law said, yeah, because it runs in the family. And I said, I don't get it. Why would he get it from you? And he began to get nervous and said, because, it's just a joke. And I said, but I don't get it. And you all laugh. So explain. It got to the point that some of his friends said, hey, it's not funny. So he excused himself and left. Later, my fiance's brother-in-law came to me and said that I was wrong for embarrassing him like that in his own house, and that I knew what the joke was about, and because of my past, I shouldn't be surprised. Now they're all demanding that I apologize to my father-in-law. Hell no, don't you do it. Get out of here. Oh my, yuck. Am I wrong for photoshopping my maid of honor's tattoos out of my wedding photos? So I, 32 female, got married 2 months ago to my husband, 35 male. We had a beautiful wedding, and my childhood BFF, Jessica, 31 female, was my maid of honor. I had a themed wedding. My husband and I are both historians, and we met because we were researching the same time period for a thesis, namely the 1800s in Great Britain, or popularly known as the Regency era. The fact that we both researched the same time period was practically the reason why we started dating, so we instantly loved the idea of a themed wedding set in the Regency era, as it was sentimental to us and a beautiful way to honor our beginnings. For my wedding, I personally paid for my wedding party's dresses, hair, and makeup. Now, Jessica has tattoos on her hands, legs, torso, and neck. I brought up her tattoos and asked her what she would prefer to do with them to stay on theme. She said she wishes to do nothing, and while she understands the theme is important to my husband and I, she was not going to cover herself up in any way, as she didn't want to compromise herself. I was a little miffed, but I accepted this, since it's a fair boundary, and so I didn't push it. Plus, gloves were an important part of the bridesmaid's attire, meaning most of her tattoos will be covered by the gloves itself, and it was really just the neck tattoos I was worried about. But the bridesmaid dresses had conservative necklines, so it wouldn't be very conspicuous, and so I thought I could just get over this and not worry. However, on the day of the wedding, Jessica's gloves were small instead of the big ones I expected the bridesmaids to wear, and her dress's neckline did nothing to cover her tattoos, as she had altered it last minute. I did not expect this and was kind of thrown off, but after a while, I stopped caring and was busy having the best day of my life. However, fast forward to a few weeks ago, I got back the first set of pictures for my wedding day, and the pics with Jessica and them were jarring to say the least because of her tattoos. It was honestly so out of place that I had asked my photographer to edit the pictures to give them a more historic portrait-like look. I wanted a particular picture of my husband and I, our families, maid of honor, and bridesmaids framed, but if anyone saw that picture, the first thing they would have noticed was Jessica's tattoos and not Am I wrong for making my wife think that our son was missing? My wife has a horrible habit that I discovered 2 months ago. We were ordering lunch on the Subway app, and I told her to pick the location that has a drive-thru. That way we don't have to go inside and take the baby out of the car just to clip him back in a few minutes later. She told me it's not a big deal to leave the baby in the car to run in and pick it up really fast. I had no idea she ever did this. I told her I was not comfortable with her leaving him in the car alone even for a minute, and she told me that she's been doing it since he was born and it's always been fine. Oh my god, that is not okay. She told me she does it to pick up food, run into the post office or pharmacy, etc. I was floored. We don't live in a horrible area, but it's also not super safe either. I told her to not ever do this again. She told me that she never stopped to think about the potential danger and that she would stop doing it. Well, yesterday as I was driving home from my brother's house, I spotted her car at the gas station near our place. It was parked in a spot up front, not at a pump, so I figured she stopped in to grab some snacks, which we like to do. I decided to stop and go in and say hi and get some food, and I pulled in and parked next to her. However, when I got there, I was furious to find our son in his car seat. The car wasn't even locked. Ooh, she's asking for a CNN story. I don't know what came over me, but in that moment, I decided to take my son and put him in my car. He's got a car seat in there too. I then drove to the other side of the gas station parking lot and waited for my wife to come out. It took 6 minutes for her to appear. When she saw that he was gone, she looked stunned for a second and then started to frantically look around and cry. I didn't let it go long. After this, I saw her pull her phone out, presumably to call 911, and that's when I pulled my car around to see her. I parked, got out, and walked around to my son's door and opened it to show him to her. She looked extremely relieved, but that quickly turned to anger with her asking me why I took him and did that to her. I told her she needed to learn her lesson, and she promised to stop leaving him in the car and that she was extremely irresponsible. It was so easy for me to pull up and take him. No one else at the gas station even noticed. So if he really was taken there would have been no help and it would have been 100% her fault. She proceeded to call me cruel and psychotic and tried taking our son out of my car into hers. I said no and that I would be driving him home, and I left. She came home not much later but ignored me the rest of the day. She acknowledged me today saying she wanted an apology, and I said absolutely not, and she's the one who should be saying sorry. She's been guilt tripping me the rest of the day, saying no mother should experience the fear I put her through. Did I go too far? Am I the asshole?